God, Gwen, I'm really impressed. You shot that request over fast.
I know. I'm super excited about learning about this whole technology thing. It
I'm a
works
little,
well.
yeah, I'm a little annoyed that you look so good.
Oh, yay for ring lights. Ring lights are the most beautiful $30 purchase in the world. Thank you.
Oh my God.
I'm going to thank my wife for that one.
Well, I'm sure Jess is over there being like, Christy, could you not have put on a better shirt?
Oh, shit.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, this is the real me. This is what you get in social distancing, Christy. So I'm letting everyone join here. Yeah, she's saying LOL. Yeah, that is exactly what she's doing. So while we're letting the rest of people join here, I'm going to give Gwen a chance to introduce herself. But before we do that, just so that you all know what's happening, we are lucky enough to get to talk with Gwen today about reactivity, which is everyone's favorite topic, especially if you have a reactive dog. So we obviously can't cover everything about reactivity. That's not possible to do in a single live. But we will talk a bit about, just what reactivity is, at least for the purposes of this conversation, why we might be seeing more of it right now in the context of this pandemic, and then some things that we can actually do. And if all things go according to plan, I will demo some things while Gwen talks. So we'll see how that goes. I will do my best to, if y'all are asking questions in the comments, I can't promise that I will perfectly be able to weave all of them in, but I will try periodically to scroll through them. So with that, I'll just say I'm Christy. I'm one of the people who started TOC. Jess is socially distanced, so she's not with us right now. Gwen, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Gwen Podulka. I'm in the DC area as well, which is how I met Christy when we weren't being socially distant. We got to actually hang out in person, which was amazing. And I've met the fabulous Otis and Sully, who are also amazing and a little bit reactive. I know,
just a little
but
bit.
That's okay. I have been training for about 20 years. I used to manage bookstores, which was fantastic, but apparently they weren't making so much money, so I had to look around and decide what else to do. And I'm like, dogs. I love dogs. Dogs are good. Dogs are fun. Started off working with service dogs with Canine Companions for Independence. Love them, support them wholeheartedly, and then kind of branched out because there were a couple things I found that I love to do. And one of them is working really directly with people, and then more hands-on even with the dogs once they were in the homes, which I think is amazing. We focus in the DC area, we focus a lot on raising puppies, right? The itty bitties, but then also all of these puppies and adolescents and even adult dogs that get adopted, brought in, loved by somebody. We're trying to help them adjust to a city life, which is weird and vastly different. Yes, for so many of our dogs, especially ones that here in DC, we bring them up from West Virginia and Tennessee, and they're used to having fields, and now they don't have that. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years. Absolutely love it. Everyday stories melt my heart, literally, in good ways with reactive dogs.
Yes, and for the purposes of folks on this conversation, she teaches several, or I guess taught, they were in-person reactive classes that were amazing, and I got to go and see some of them and was begging her. I was like, I need a slot in here for my dogs. Like, I gotta get them in here.
I'm giving Christy all the hookups. Hook up with the vet behaviorist, hook up with the class. We're in. Come on.
Yes, you want the hookups when you have tough dogs. So this is helpful. Yeah. So just to make sure we are all on the same page, at least for the purposes of this live, will you talk about what we mean when we say a reactive dog or reactivity?
Okay, so for the purposes of this conversation, because I think this is a big word out there in the dog training field. I think it's a minefield of a word. But for the purposes of this conversation, let's talk about reactivity as sort of maybe an unwanted, uncomfortable dog who might be either barking and lunging or tucking tail and panicking and giving whale eye and running away. Sort of more extreme ends of the behavior. It's not that happy, loose, wiggly, I can sleep, my paws up in the air and it's deep sleep. It is the dog who's like pacing around the house, barking at every little noise, goes full Cujo when you step out the door because the poor mailman decked out in his new gloves and his mask happens to be right there. Yeah.
Yes. So, and one of the things Gwen has said before with me that was really helpful is that, dogs are alive and dogs react, but when we talk about reactive dogs, it's usually overreactions, which I found very helpful.
Yes. Yes.
Even my 2 reactive dogs sometimes react appropriately for a situation, but half the time they're overreacting.
But actually, that's something that I want to say too, because so many people come to us and they're embarrassed. They're like, but most of the time my dog is great and I love him and they're perfect and they're amazing. And I'm like, yes, I understand. You would not be living with a lion that wanted to eat you all the time. I feel bad making that reference after watching a tiny bit of that show out there. Okay. But most reactive dogs are still, they're great dogs.
Most of the time.
Yeah, these are not bad dogs.
Yeah,
these are dogs that are struggling to learn in the environment that we threw them into.
Totally. I love that. So with that being said, this is still kind of just macro level, but will you talk a little bit about, since we cannot go into every single thing about reactivity, just the big buckets or the big areas that people
I got
think
time.
about?
We can talk about it all.
Oh. People are like, yes, keep going. This is free, and I need the help. So or I am. I'm like, please help me. Like, for the record, y'all, like I know what to do with reactive dogs, and I was near tears recently. So, will you talk about just at a macro level what the kind of big buckets are that we think about when we think about helping our reactive dogs?
Oh, helping the reactive dogs. You have to identify the triggers. You have to understand the monsters. What are the monsters in your dog's closet of a head? Because for some people, for my German Shepherd, it is literally just noises. In fact, we're super specific, just air brakes on buses and trucks. But for so many of the other dogs I meet, it's my health wasn't great this week. My stomach was a little upset. And then I heard a noise outside that I didn't recognize, and that was a little weird. And then they also go outside and see their nemesis, their kryptonite of a dog upstairs, out down the sidewalk, and they're just kind of freaking out. So identifying what monsters live within your dog and what they're really uncomfortable with helps so much. And there's about 7 or 8 big ones. But the other things that are always in the bucket of when I think about building out a reactive dog class or a plan, I'm looking at the body language. What does a happy dog look like? What does a fine dog look like? What does a freaked out dog look like for you? And then we also want to talk about management. You and I, Christy, have talked about management so much. This one is so highly overlooked. We need to delve into that one.
Yes.
And then we need the training plan. How do we actually make them, what does a non-reactive dog look like? And I'm going to tell you that the number one thing that I tend to see with reactive dogs is they are making all the decisions. They're going and they're never stopping to look at their owner and going, hey, what do you think about this? How do you feel about this? And if we can get them to do more of that, stop making decisions by yourself, we end up being like, oh, we've got a team. We're a support team and we can do this together.
I love that. So I want to say a moment of this, since I live with 2 reactive dogs and I've learned a lot from Gwen recently, that, to echo the importance of body language, for me, if I can spot my dog about to blow, that is incredibly helpful. And the piece about, I think most people are so used to hearing counter conditioning, right? Where you're changing your dog's association with these triggers. You're taking it from negative to more neutral. But most of us, as Gwen likes to say, we don't live in a vacuum, we live in a city, or, we're around triggers all the time. So we have to be able to manage them while we work through them. And that's been a massive help for me, especially I'm walking 2 reactive dogs. Sometimes I'm just trying to manage, and that's a win.
Yep.
If I can walk out of there without a reaction, I'm good. So awesome. Is there anything else you want to say on that? Otherwise,
no, I don't. Oh, there's
cool.
So much I could say. There's so
I know.
much.
I know.
I'm going to stay focused.
I know the other thing too that I feel like you talk about is decompression, which is helpful, which we're not going to get into too much, for just as a part of the package.
We threw around that word too, and I was thinking more and more about it after I left our last week's conversation. I was just like, decompression, I think, is a word that people are hearing and seeing a lot in the dog world anymore. Decompression meaning allowing your dog to be a dog in a sniff. But the in kind of piling on to that, I think the thing that we don't do sometimes with reactive dogs is finding games and sports that they like. Like maybe walking isn't decompression, so can we do nose work? Can we do dog tricks? Can we decompression doesn't have to be finding that magical field in the middle of DC where nobody's hanging out right now on this beautiful 70-degree sunny blue day where we're all social distancing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are other things that we can do. So decompression, I want to lump that in a little bit with what can you guys enjoy to do together? And it doesn't have to mean you leave the house.
I love that. So since you just hit on, I lost one of the things that used to be decompression for my dogs, which was, wide open fields and trails where no one is. So could you talk a little bit about why people might be seeing an increase in reactivity in their dogs right now? You obviously can't diagnose it for everyone, but.
You want me to talk about the dogs and not the reason I'm trigger stacking and going over threshold more lately? Okay.
Sure, you can bring people into it because it's the same thing.
Right? I mean, my schedule 3 weeks ago, let me loop this into the dogs. And I don't mean to talk too much about myself, but my schedule 3 weeks ago was I went to class 5 days a week. I taught class. I drove 3+ hours a day because it's DC and it's heavy traffic and all of that. And then we started changing. And then we cut our classes out, and then we cut our private lessons out, and then we don't leave the house at all. And I haven't driven my car in a week. And going to the grocery store, am I wearing a mask? Am I not wearing a mask? I have to make decisions. And my poor dogs are walking around going, I do not need 23 walks a day. But there are right now, and even in our own environment, I can hear there have been dogs out barking all day long. There have been people out moving around all day long, even though we're trying to socially distance. I'm not sleeping as well. I'm not sure my dogs are sleeping well. My senior pup, poor thing, 13 years old, came upstairs 8 times today. She never comes upstairs during the day.
Baby.
I know. So I literally, let me stop and talk about trigger stacking just for a second. And again, application to people. If I was living a normal day, I could trigger stack and suddenly erupt and blow up out of the blue if my alarm clock went off late, if my coffee was burnt, if I got stuck in traffic on the way to work, and oh my gosh, my first client wasn't even home. Have you no respect for the dog trainer? I am magical. What? How could you not remember I was coming to your house? And then by lunchtime, I'm like, no, leave me alone.
Then anything after that is like, if you had not given me all of those other problems in the same day, I could have handled the next problem. But now you give me my next problem. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah. Oh, and our poor puppies are doing the same thing. I also think there's a tiny little bit of me that keeps going. How much of it is that a problem that we used to see 10% of the day, we're now home with them 100% of the day. So now we see this problem 100%. We've all been trying to walk them more, and we've all been trying to do right by them. But we're having conference calls where we're in the home and we're talking to people that has nothing to do with them. And we never taught them to relax during those moments. And we never taught them, right. And we already had that problem 10% of the time on a walk. Oh, hello.
You can hear my dog. Yeah. It's live. What are you gonna do?
You might hear Lemon snoring eventually. So yeah, I do think that's another thing to kind of keep in perspective. Something that used to be a little bit of a problem and our dogs got to decompress when we weren't around. We're now exposed to it 100%.
Yeah, that is, I'm having to remind myself too sometimes, like, I don't need to go touch you when I walk by. Like, I should just give you a minute since normally you get some alone time. And like right now, all your spaces are just consumed by human things right now. Yeah. So there's just a lot going on. So it's normal for people to be seeing their dogs reacting a bit more. Do you think, I sometimes wonder too, like we're a little bit more on edge if they sometimes can tell that we're on edge, our whole routine is off.
And I got to the point too where this week I'm super happy that I wasn't driving for a week. And I got to say 2 things here. I'm super happy that I wasn't driving, but this is the week I'm starting to be like, I'm a lucky human being right now. Nobody that I know directly is sick. If somebody I know directly gets sick, that's going to 100% change this new sort of nice balance that I've found in my life. And that edge doesn't leave me anymore. It's always right underneath the surface of everything. Huge family, so many people out there just trying not to get sick, and friends and family and acquaintances. I also want to point out, yes, it is so, this uptick in reactivity is so normal. I actually thought we were going to go home, be quiet for a couple weeks. I could do all these amazing new things online and build out my new Slack page. Thank you, Tales of Connection, for that idea. My new website. We haven't had a decrease in clients. We've had an uptick in clients, but
it's just trying to adjust. Yes.
Yes. The number one call has been for how do I get my dog to be calm during a conference call? And then how do I get my dog to stop yelling at everything out the window? Those are my two top most asked questions right now.
So we'll see if we can get to some of those.
I love it.
All right. So with that, Gwen, I feel like we are now into basically what the meat of, yay, Fran, boofing hour.
Yeah, boofing right now. And that is a beautiful puppy German Shepherd. Love him so much. Hi, Zin. Okay.
So how do you want to, we're now at the point, y'all, where we're going to try to talk about some like practical things that you can do that help longer term solve problems, also help you manage the problem, help you think about how you address this, right? Like they're concept things. What do you want to try first, Gwen?
Oh, management.
Management, okay.
Management. Or I want to add to this because I snuck in a note that you didn't see, capturing behavior.
Okay.
Okay, so both of those are the two top things at my list before you get to pull out a dog and play with a dog.
Yes, hit me. I'm not going to pull out a dog until you tell me to pull out a dog. So.
Okay, so let me start off with the capturing because I'm going to make it brief. I'm going to make it short. I'm going to make it sweet. Every time I say capture, I mean I just want you can look at your dog and you can say, be the best, laziest armchair trainer that you can be. You can be like, oh, you're not annoying me right now. You know what? I should grab some of your breakfast and give you a couple of kibbles because you're not annoying me right now. You're quiet. You're laying down. You're chewing on your own Kong. Any of these things are valuable, amazing behaviors that we just want to be like, oh, leave the dog alone. Don't touch them. Don't interact with them. Don't invite them for a walk. They're finally sleeping quietly. And I'm like, no. If you can start capturing all the good things they do, you literally could do 90% of the training from your chair, 75%, without going anywhere. So I'm going to be like, one of the things we're going to get a little bit more into later is the idea of just capturing quiet. Being able to look at your dog, you can assign half a cup of food, 20 treats, set aside a jar of something amazing that says quiet on it. And then your job over the course of the day, because if you have a jar with 20 kibbles or half a cup,
you got to use it.
You got to use it. And if at the end of the night it's still there's a half a cup there, you have to go good, quiet, quiet, good boy. Oh, you're such a good boy. You're gonna have to dole it out because your dog needs to eat.
Yeah.
So. But in a perfect world, you do it over the course of the day. So I cannot talk enough about just being able to capture good things that your dog are doing.
Gwen, can I echo something for you that I love that you say that, sometimes people will say, well, but my dog isn't yes. But my dog isn't like perfectly flipped on a hip, totally chilled. And I love, Gwen always says, but like you heard her, the bar is low. My dog isn't annoying me. That is worth rewarding. You can work towards the like perfectly settled down, but like there's something to reward there.
When we had 8 little puppies in a classroom and they were all excited to see each other and they're all excited to see the new people and they're a little worried and they're all over the place. We always started class with the idea of capturing behavior. And I said, the number one thing you capture is quiet. If they are not barking, I want you to start telling them how amazing they are. I don't care if they sit, lay down, stand still. I don't care. Then if their paws are on the floor, reward that. And you know what happens? Eventually you have dogs who just come in and they're like, okay. And they choose to lay down. It's beautiful. You've been doing a great job with Otis.
Otis has other challenges, but chilling tends to not be his challenge. But well, you will see some of his challenges. Okay, I love that. Okay, so finding ways to just capture calm with a loose definition of what calm is at home.
Hmm. Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Do we want to jump into management?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of management because it's not possible to switch the association like that. So having ways to um, manage the dog, and though half the time with management, I actually find I'm still able to get some counter conditioning in there too.
You have that same face I have, that sometimes when we talk about management, which is why I think some people are like, I don't even know what to do with management. And it's just, if I put my dog behind a baby gate, they're gonna freak out and bark at me more. And if I put my dog, if I'm on if my dog is on a leash and I'm trying to go someplace else, my dog is then freaking out on the leash because they feel the tension on the leash. And it's just, when we talk about management, there are multiple different things. But management means, all right, purpose of this conversation. Management means being able to stay far enough away from the trigger. Being able to stay far enough away from your dog's monster that your dog is not having that overreaction to it. But for the purposes of this conversation, I also want to say that I think there is some level of teaching management. Like there's a whole question about, will dogs have separation anxiety when we go back to work? My dog is barking at me right now, but I can't put him in the crate because it gets worse and now he's eating the crate or he's digging at the baby gate. And so sometimes we have to teach those things. We have to say, you know what, I'm going to take 2 minutes today, put up the baby gate. You're going to be on that side of the baby gate. I'm going to be on this side. And I'm going to really actively reward you for being calm and quiet over there. Going back to that nice capturing. Are you quiet? If I stand right in front of you at the baby gate, can I capture that quiet? Can I make that a good thing? If I increase over the week, can I get to the point where I'm sitting down close to my conference call area and I still have a quiet dog using the management tool that I taught them to be comfortable with? Management tool can be muzzles, it can be harnesses, it can be leashes, but 100% of the time, especially in the busy DC area, I'm going to be like, if me and my puppy are here and my puppy's monster is right here and coming closer, my management tool is to get out. And that is what we need to do to prevent practice from the unwanted behaviors that we want. But many owners have to teach this. They'll be like, Gwen, that doesn't work for me. My dog won't eat when we're this close. We can't run away. So we teach that. The idea of teaching a management tool is a good one.
I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Have you taught any management tools? Actively taught a management tool?
Probably not. I manage the threshold anyway, but I know how you do some of them, and this predates when I thought that management was a thing worth teaching. It was not a thing I knew about, really.
So I want to throw this out because I think it's one of those things that people always, they're like nodding and smiling when I say threshold. And I know we have great dog people on here, but again, for the purpose of conversation, what do you mean by threshold, Christy? This is me testing Christy. What do you mean by threshold?
So what I mean is that my dog has basically a line that if you cross over, and it's relative to a specific trigger, right? If I cross over that kind of line, that threshold, my dog will react. So before the threshold, my dog is below reaction level. For me, there are like fuzzy little, like the threshold kind of blurs and turns from a solid black line to like gray on the other side of it, where I'm starting to get the alert, the ears flicked, the body stiff. Like I'm starting to get the signals when I approach that threshold. That's how I can tell I'm getting close to my threshold. If I get a full-blown reaction, I've crossed my threshold and I've got to back up fast.
Yep. So this is one of the things we talked a little bit about earlier too, but knowing what your buckets are when you're working with a reactive dog, and you started to call out your body language changes. And I'm like, to me, in a perfect world, every time my dog saw something or interacted with something in the environment, I would have very loose muscles, and I would have helicopter tails, and I would have mouth a little bit open, and maybe airplane ears, and just very soft dogs, because reactivity looks weird in a lot of different dogs. So I think the majority of the people I deal with, when you come home, you get that full-on helicopter tail with those lazy big stretches and very calm and relaxed. And those are the ones where I'm like, keep that picture in your mind. That's what a good, happy, healthy dog looks like as you work towards and away from your dog being better with its triggers.
Yeah,
I can tell thresholds.
My Otis, I used to miss his early signals that we were approaching a threshold. His used to be, or they still are, I'm slightly better at managing the threshold now, but it's a hard stare. He will hard stare at something, like a trigger, do you know what I mean? Like he'll lock onto it, he'll get stiff, and he'll hard stare. And if he starts hard staring,
get out. It's not an overreaction, but all of a sudden you know that your puppy can't learn anymore. I was thinking about this earlier. I want to show you the great cartoon I drew. Puppies in the house, puppies happy, right? Your puppy I didn't do a good job of drawing the second dog. Trust me, I didn't do it. But I'm like, as soon as you're, I was putting a lot of thought into this. I'm like, how do I teach this versus teletraining? Online, I got to learn how to teach these things. But if your monster actually comes into the house,
oh my God.
Come on. That's good, right? I'm not going to show you the scared dog. The scared dog was bad. It
amazing.
It made me cry. It made me cry. So there's that point of, and this is, by the way, this is over threshold. This is your dog is going to lose it because all of a sudden the monster is in the house. And so your dog is no longer happy and perfect. But now I lost my train of thought because I'm showing off my fine artwork. And but yeah, I'm really looking for those. There's that overreaction once the monster gets in the house, and I can't train like that. If literally, hello, reactive dogs. If the monster was in my house, if I had a monster in my house right now, and that could be one of 100 things. To be honest, sometimes maintenance people in my house doing normal things. It's just. I'm the introvert. It's trigger stacking for me. I'm like, I need to leave. Let somebody else deal with this. I'm out. So I'm like, when you are at that point, you're not going to learn. You're not capable of learning. It doesn't mean we as humans should treat the behavior differently, but let's get them out, back them up, put them someplace safe where they can actually learn when they're around their triggers.
And when you say learn, that's where you're getting the actual counter conditioning. When they're back behind their threshold and they're actually able to think and eat and
yes. And I think so many people have the right idea these days of counter conditioning. The idea of counter conditioning is being able to see the boogeyman and associate good things, and being able to see the boogeyman and associate the good things. And I think there are 200 new ways of doing that. And I think we all need to start looking at our toolkits and being like, if my dog isn't where I want them today, who do I go to? What resources do I have? What new tricks can I pull out of my bag and try them out?
Yeah, totally. Do you want to do some, I know you're a big fan of patterns and pictures. Do you want to do some of that?
I am. Which puppy do we get to pull out first? Who's awake?
I'm going to go with, neither.
Hi, everybody.
But I will wake them up. So I think I'm going to do Otis.
Okay, so, sorry, moving one puppy over myself. Okay, so you were just saying that I'm a big fan of patterns and pictures. Okay, so let's talk about,
because Treats just came here. So.
Oh, so smart puppy.
I know.
Yes, this is the best life.
You can keep talking while I won't move yet.
And I was thinking right now too, I'm like, this is ideally what I want, because I have a dog who is, right now, in a perfect world, if we are going to go make Otis better with his monsters, what I want is this dog. His ears are up, a little back. He's very
Trying
loose.
to
His
see if
muscles
I
are
can
very
get
soft.
less,
a better
yeah,
visual. Both of mine are
less straight
sneaking
sunlight.
toys into my lap.
Odie, come here. Let's see. Can you see better this direction, or is this still real bright? Miro.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, Ben,
So
you're in the shot now. Oh,
hello,
bug.
meet Ladybug. Okay. All right. So she said she heard treats, and so she showed up. Okay. So here's what okay, let's talk about the picture first. We came up with a couple different examples. One of them was, actually, I'm going to start outside. I think every now and then Otis and Sully might have problems with another dog. They have a dog that they think is kryptonite outside, and they fall apart, and they yell, and they go stiff, and they're ridiculous, and they're over the top. Okay. I want to fix that picture, but I'm now quarantined, stuck in my house. What am I going to do about it? Well, a whole bunch of things. So one of the first things that I tell everybody you could do, well, is anytime you're outside and you see that other dog, and Christy, I'm going to have you play along for a second, is you could just open the bar up. So opening the bar up, I might just be like, if we notice the dog's about a half block over, yep, that's right, we're just going to feed Otis. If his ear is flicking, if his eye flicks over towards his trigger, we're just going to feed him. And I think that's great. I think that is absolutely something you can do today to start the behavior and start making them feel better. Let me tell you where it's going to fall apart for us. If that dog is coming,
while I'm moving this.
Absolutely. If that dog is coming closer, we're going to have a problem, and we need to run away. We need to manage and get the heck out of there. But that's all me. I'm actually in that moment. I'm trying to deal with the problem that is about to happen. My dog is about to react, and I'm trying to deal with the problem right in the moment. Let's talk about all the things we can do before we even go outside. So my big picture, I want Otis to be better with this dog outside. So I could start, and I know this dog barks, I know what street it lives on, and I tend to know what time of day that I see it. So the whole picture is at 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm going to walk down this block, and the dog is going to be barking, and Otis is going to be happy and comfortable, relaxed, and maybe if we see the dog, we might run away, or we might stop and open up the bar and feed them. But what we can do before then is we could play around with some really fun things. So Christy we're going to switch up and we're going to play a cookie toss game, because I want to show you guys, is Otis a good one to do cookie tosses with?
Yes, he loves cookie tossing.
So
you're going to see his level of enthusiasm for this game.
Thank goodness. So Chrissy's already up and moving, and he's very interested in her, but I want you to watch the body language once she starts doing cookie tosses. Do you see that little bit of prance in his step? So now I took kibble. What are you using, Christy? Are you using dog food or something more exciting?
I'm using nice dog food, ZB Peak.
Awesome. So here we go. We've got to find some things that our dog likes. And some dogs like food, but some dogs really like food that moves and they can chase. And I can tell Otis likes to do that because he's a little more bouncy. He's actively going after it. Every time he moves towards mom, we're going to do a little cookie toss off to the left or the right. And she's just like, and he's like, yeah, this is the most amazing thing in the world. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, we're doing this at home, and Otis looks brilliantly fluent. He's not having a hard time. He's having the best time ever. So I want to start right. I want to start working towards my, yeah, I know. I want to start working towards that picture of that dog outside barking behind a fence. But
sorry, 1 second. Then we grab the sheet and put it up there. So that's right. Keep going, Gwen. I'm sorry.
Oh, the bright sunshine.
Very tacky with my.
Can you ask your assistant if you can also grab the, should we do the front door or should we do a vacuum cleaner? Because we're going to work with some.
I have a front door cleared, and I have a vacuum cleaner out, and I have a cone built. All of those things.
Ooh, a cone. Okay, we're going to grab the vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
We're going to, cone is kryptonite. Okay, yes. We don't want to use the cone yet. We want to find something. So what we do in, perfect. What we do in class is we start to do things where we're like, okay, we're going to play the game, and we're going to see if our dog can play the game. And then we're going to take a neutral object and tell my dog, hey, now Sully is in the picture.
Your girl.
And the vacuum. And the vacuum is in the picture.
No, you don't want to do there. Come here, Sully. You come. She wants to come over here. Go ahead, girl. Sully's
so helpful.
Special little flower.
Yeah, Ziwi Peaks are the best. Ziwi Peaks is actually a very fancy dog food. It's air dried lamb, and there's also a brand name of dog treats called Real Meat. And for my go-to rewards, I'm going to tell you those are probably two of my very much my favorite rewards as kind of a go-to. But that's also what my dogs like, and there is some level of we've got to figure out what does my dog like that they might work for. So in the case of Sully, cookies from hand, good. Cookies being tossed around, great. Now what Christy's doing is she added something different in the picture, and she's telling Otis, hey, we're doing the same thing even though this vacuum cleaner is in the picture. And what I'm noticing about Otis is he is still moving really well. He's still bouncing and eating. He's like, this is a no-brainer. This is like the easiest game in the world. Every time
this is remarkable for him with he doesn't love vacuum cleaners, and I've done this with the cone with him, and it was night and day what happened when I started tossing versus when I was handing a treat with the cone. He would not tolerate the cone moving without the treats moving, but when the treats started moving, he was fine with the cone moving.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
We're gonna pull out the cone in a second. If somebody was telling me specifically that my dog had a problem with the vacuum cleaner, I would be like, the next thing would be to plug it in, see if they can do cookie tosses, move it silently, see if you can do that. Yeah, see if you can move it silently, do cookie tosses. Oh, dun, dun, dun. Here Christy's going for it. She's feeling brave. But what we're doing is we're like, so you know what? This is a better picture for right now. If Otis didn't like the vacuum cleaner on, loud, making noise, what we're doing is we're breaking all the pieces out and seeing which is still fun for Otis. With it moving, can you even make the hose move and like kind of move it towards him?
You can tell he's not thrilled with.
Look at that body language.
You can even tell what he's starting to look at now too.
So I'm going to do a couple more, and then I want you to give him a break and stop doing what you're doing. Just be like, all done, Baba. Good job.
Good job.
You could pet him up.
Sully knows that all done means her turn.
It is absolutely your turn, Sully. But this is, for so many dogs, like we've been taught for years that when a dog is having a problem with something, when they're reacting, we want them just to sit and look at us. And that dog can be over there, and that dog can be barking, the dog can be yelling, or that vacuum cleaner can be doing its evil job of cleaning the house. And my dog is just supposed to sit there quietly and look at me. That's too hard for so many dogs. What I need them to do is in order to counter condition, I need to associate good things with the scary things. So for Otis, movements is a lot better than just kind of staying stationary.
Like tenfold.
Yeah. Tenfold. I'm thinking you're going to have to still work on that vacuum cleaner though, man, because as soon as you picked up that hose, he went, oh.
Believe it or not, this is a massive amount of progress for him. You're talking to a dog who thought feathers were terrifying. So, I know, he's a wimpy boy.
He's doing great. And I actually really like what you're doing now, too, because you're like, okay, now let me. Evil vacuum cleaner, how dare you? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Hi, buddy.
I know.
I like what you're doing now, too, because it's one of the things I always tell people. Once we get away from the trigger, once we control the trigger, because you kind of controlled the trigger, you made it less evil by putting it down, leaving it behind you. I love incorporating different rewards. Here's the other thing that's happening with the lovely Otis. The trigger kind of went to not so scary place, and you're rewarding him for kind of moving away and not dealing with it. He doesn't have to go to closer to it. He doesn't have to deal anymore with it. We're going to tell him he's wonderful for making a choice and just stopping any kind of interaction with it.
And y'all, what Gwen just said is one of my favorite things ever that she's taught me, that opting out of dealing with something is an awesome choice for the dog. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to walk away. Cool. You didn't erupt. Like, that's okay. You won't.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
All right. What do you want us to do next?
Ooh, should we bring out the cone and try let's try that whole idea of the cone's a little tricky. I want to try the idea of having a dog do we're going to do a different game. We're going to work on more of that idea of having the dog opt into and out of working with the scary thing.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. If you bring in the cone, what is he going to do?
Because I have done a few sessions with it, my guess is he's going to try to interact with it.
Okay.
What
and if you
he does not like with the cone very much is if he's standing up and I'm moving the cone. He doesn't love the like noise and random movement of it.
Okay, so let's bring the cone into the picture and we're going to try something else out. We're going to try to put a start button behavior and we're going to do more rewarding him when he says he's done with it, and we're going to talk about why.
Okay, he'll actually get his head into it, so you can, Otis, you gotta get up, baby. Come stand up. Thank you, buddy. Hold on. Let's we're going to put one scary thing away and then we'll bring up the next scary thing.
Right, we're not going to trigger stack. We're not going to burn the coffee and have a bad drive to work.
Hey, Sully girl. Sully girl.
Oh, good job.
Sully, you have not been trained with this, so my preference. Ben, can you call Sully?
Here,
Tessa.
I'm just going to point out to you guys, all of you guys too, that very seldom is working with a reactive dog a straight line sort of behavior where you just get better and you get better and you get better and you get. Most of the time, most clients will have moments of, oh my gosh, my dog is what happened?
Yes.
And then my dog is brilliant. And then you're like, and that's okay. That's okay.
This is why I was near tears not too long ago. It's like, what are you doing? You don't react to this anymore. Like, you got over strollers a year and a half ago. What's happening?
Oh, trigger stacking. Yeah, because we're a little stressed. Life is a little different. Everything's changing. And by the way, the weather is beautiful.
Yes.
So everybody's outside.
That's so good, bud.
He's doing really good. So you're just feeding him, aren't you? You're just being like.
Because if it comes out, he's getting what he'll do now. His hardest thing is if it starts moving, but what he will by choice do, he's giving me chin. Yes.
So cute.
You'll notice he's getting his tail stops. Oops, here you go, Otis. When his head goes in, so like I can see his body language change, and he's, that was pretty good.
Yep.
But he's still reaching. Can you see him leaning? Like he's not super comfortable in there, but the thing I had to do the cookie toss for was like down here. Oh, I don't, he's much calmer than he normally is. I don't know. So this is clearly not that big of a trigger right now for him. So.
I also have this feeling that one of the reasons when you put it, you primed the pump. You went and you did a game that he really loved first. So I'm over the years, I've kind of gotten to the point where opening that bar up, trigger comes out and you open the bar up, meaning the cone came out and Christy started just feeding. That's the right thing. You want to do that, but she's already put in a ton of work. He's not tucking his tail right now, but watch the variations. Do you see how the tail goes from straight out the line of his back to sometimes it was really high over the line of his back, and sometimes it's really loose and it's wiggling? He's not tucking his tail. Tucking his tail would be the overreaction that we're not looking for. And if he had tucked his tail, or if he had lunged and barked at the cone, I would be like, get out. That's an overreaction. It's very hard to teach a puppy when their brain is in that space. So what I'm looking for is more like helicopter tails, very loose, swoopy, side-to-side tails. And by the way, I'm going to talk about that just for a second. Don't make a mistake of taking a word out of a sentence, because if I said the word mad, but then I said, you would have this envision in your head of smoke coming out of my head, flames, me being scary. But if I said, I'm not mad at you, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, that's a very different perception. So when we look at a dog's tail, It's a very helpful tool, especially if they have a tail, unlike a bulldog or a Frenchie. But when I'm looking at how stiff the muscles are and how loose and wiggly his spine is, his spine. So a lot of dogs C-shape, which is what I was thinking in my head. When they come up and visit you, they kind of C-shape around. But I'm looking for that kind of open mouth and those ears that are slightly up and off or back a little bit, and just very loose body language. So keep in mind, overreaction we're going to try to avoid. We always want to teach them when they're about in this spot where they're still eating, they're still working, but maybe that tail's a little up, a little down, a little conflicted, and we're trying to figure out what we're doing.
And Gwen, will you explain, just so that people understand? So the scenario we started with, just to like circle back to it, was that, okay, my dogs will sometimes react to other dogs out on a walk, right, when they see them. We are inside so far working, right? We started with this pattern. He was loose, fluid. That was clearly very rewarding for him. We brought out a vacuum and a cone, which don't look like a dog.
Yeah.
Like, can you just really quickly remind people why it's still a very worthwhile thing to do, even though the trigger is the dog?
You're learning to, a couple things are happening. You're learning to read your dog. You are also starting to work out which tools, which patterns might work best for your dog. Like you opening the bar was very good. Otis loved it. He showed up. Sully showed up. But when you tossed cookies, he loved it more. So now I'm going to file that away and be like, I probably want to do some cookie tosses safely on leash when we start working towards the other dog, because that's more valuable to Otis. But also, I'm getting a chance, I'm seeing all this body language now while you're working on these two indoor objects, and I'm making him better, and I'm making him better with a monster in the house that I can control. The dog outside I probably can't control. It might be off leash. It might come running at us. It might have snuck out of its yard. It might just be there yelling at us one day. It might not be there the next day. So what I want to do is I want to start working with things that I can control. I can introduce them, take them away. I can make them a little harder by moving the vacuum cleaner. And I keep seeing progress. Oh, by the way, this is also my version of, I've now set 2 alarms every morning. So when one doesn't go off, the other one does. So maybe my coffee was burnt and the traffic was bad, but I'm not over threshold and reacting super badly because I couldn't take all of the problems. If we don't have a problem with the vacuum cleaner, if we don't have a problem with the cone, and we go outside and see the dog, that's 1 problem, not 5. This week, I didn't have to drive to work. I didn't have to deal with the traffic, and I have clients reaching out to me, so I'm starting to feel a little bit more secure in my life, but I'm still worried about the health of my loved ones, my clients, my family, my acquaintances, my friends. But now it's one thing is I'm trying to take in and be grateful for all the things I've got right now.
That is super helpful. I also, you might be able to explain it, just anecdote. I have a skateboard in here that I can pull out. Skateboards are like this, that's this dog's nemesis. We've worked hard on them, but just yesterday, a man was skateboarding down a hill perpendicularly that ran straight into where we were with Otis. And he heard that thing from far away, but if I stood, he locked, froze, stiff, wouldn't move, staring at the skateboarder. If I let him stay still or tried to do some still, it would have been really, really difficult for him not to react. But as soon as I got him going, tossing, it's like his brain flipped into, I know this game. Yes. Like, he knew the skateboarder was there, and because he'd still look, but so I was getting plenty of great counter conditioning because this is such a high value game for him. But it was like the movement kept him from locking so hard onto that trigger.
I think one of the other nice things about cookie tosses, and there's probably about 5 different ways to do them, and maybe we can go to the front door and do that too, with the front door, because I think one of the nice things about cookie tosses that you actually got to do with the skateboarder too is probably your first treat went away from the skateboarder.
Correct.
And so you rewarded him for moving away, which is ultimately what our dogs, when we put them on a leash, especially in a busy DC area, that's my best frame of reference. When we put them on a leash and we're walking down the street and we're walking down the sidewalk, we oftentimes force them come head to head to deal with their problems, or heaven forbid, we turn the corner and then there's a skateboarder right there. Like, they don't get to go anywhere. They don't get to run away like they might have chosen. They don't get to make a big circle around it and come in closer. They're kind of forced to deal with it. So when we have a dog who's a little bit more conditioned to cookie tosses or to being rewarded, like if you practice saying, let's go, run away and treat them, just switch directions and treat them, do an emergency U-turn and treat them 20 to 30 feet away, you have a dog that is now being like, I have a choice. I don't have to lock in and focus. When I choose to check out, mom says, that's amazing. Dad says, that's great. You're so brave, little dog. We can do this together. And the difference between a client who comes to me with a problem dog and wants to work through a reactive dog class and one who I never see and I never meet is there are some dogs that like, oh my gosh, that's a problem. And they just forever in their whole life walk away from it. And they can recover and they just get over it. They're like, I don't want to say hello to you. And they walk away, or they turn their head and they just don't look. The reactive dogs we tend to see more often and work with more often are the dogs who bark and lunge or full on panic because we've been a little messy about what we'd like them to do, either check in with us or just calmly walk away. I think, and it's a little bit goes back to the conversation of socialization. Socialization doesn't mean we play with every dog, we say hello to every dog, we say hello to every person, we experience everything at 100%. It means good things happen around new objects and sights and sounds. Yeah. What is that face? She's coming in.
It was me trying to get through my dogs. I had a dog obstacle there. Ben, will you pull the blinds up now that it's... Note to self, 6 p.m. is a hard time for this apartment. So we have, I think, 8 minutes until this thing will kick us off. Maybe not that high, but good work, though, assisting. A little lower.
Man, that was it? Oh, God, we can talk about
20
more things.
I know.
We can do 20 more pattern games.
I know. Well, maybe we'll beg you to come back and do a round 2.
Okay.
Do you want to do the door? Do you want to do the door one, or do you want to do a let's go door?
I think we're going to do the door one because what I saw of Sully back a couple of weeks ago is Sully.
Oh, we're going to do this yell. Sully.
I think you should because when Sully...
Well, both my dogs like to yell at the door.
Oh, pick whoever you would like then. Whoever would like to participate.
I'm sitting up here, Sully. Come here.
I'm sitting up here in my second floor window, and I want to tell you guys that I have, talking about why our dogs are having more problems, I have seen 12 different dogs walk by that I have never seen before in my life. And I live in a little bit of a neighborhood. Okay. And so I'm like, I don't understand. Where have you been hiding these dogs? What have you been doing with them? Okay. So the thing I like about this one too is because I know this goes back to that conversation. It's still a cookie toss. If Sully's a lot slower. You're going to see a change in energy with Sully. Yes. And I know somebody popped up a question. And they were saying something about, I know the video froze for a second about, should the tail always be wagging? The tail doesn't always have to be wagging, but I really know as a rule for most dogs, super loose helicopter tail, a really soft side to side body tail usually comes with really nice body language, relaxed muscles, that open mouth, that slightly more, that dog who is able to learn. So with Sully, what you see a lot more is she's got a very high tail, but she's still moving pretty well. She's eating, which is a huge win. She's chasing the tree. I'm not as sure this is as fun for her as it was for Otis. Part of me would wonder too, if we pulled out something like, would a flirt pole would be better for her? Would one of our other pattern games, if Sully, and here's something that happens with a lot of little dogs, we never give little dogs the choice to opt in and deal with the problem. We pick them up, we make them do things, we don't teach them. And so sometimes little dogs have a farther way to come, especially when this is their second family, third family, fourth family, because nobody ever allowed them to learn, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the things Christy's doing right now too, she's going back to doing cookie tosses. And so one of the things that we can do, if our dog has problems with visitors at the door, with the sound of the vacuum cleaner outside in the hallway, is eventually too, which she could start doing with this, because Sully's definitely having a good time. Mm-hmm. The pattern is easy. They're very fluid. Every single time Christy tosses a cookie, Sully goes, gets it, comes back to Christy. That's what I mean when I'm like, okay, could we make this harder? Absolutely. Yeah. Could we start adding in that trigger of, oh my gosh, there's a visitor outside that door. There's a vacuum cleaner outside the door. Yes. But there's another thing that you could do first. You could start saying, go get it when you toss the cookie away. You could say, go say hi when you toss it at the door. You could also interrupt the pattern and you could say, go say hi, toss it at the door, and then come and feed her here. Go say hi and come and feed her back at your point. So we could start adding words. A lot of times with reactive dogs, I'm not gonna go in with the idea that I can tell them what to do. I just want to make things patterns and associate words. But if I can get her to the point where we are heading over to the door and she kind of stops and look at you because, hey mom, you didn't say go say hi, what should I do? That's what I want her to do. So when she comes back this time, I might feed her a couple times right there and be like, boy, thank you so much for coming away from the door.
Girl. Good
and then
girl.
I might be like,
okay,
so now
go
if
say hi.
Yeah. So if there was a visitor there that she was allowed to say, I would do go say hi. Now, if there was a vacuum cleaner outside the door, I might be like, go get it and toss it away.
Go get it.
But all of this movement means our dog doesn't have to be perfect and sit and stay and just look at us. I think that's an unrealistic bar for a living being. And Otis says, hello? What about me?
That was a terrible toss on my part. Go back up there. Go back up. Go back up. Thank you.
But so without a visitor even being in your home, Christy, you've started to make going towards the door no longer becomes a hot zone. You've made it a fun place to move in and out of. There's a high rate of reinforcement. Yes.
And it is now very normal for her to leave the door. Like that's a thing she's going to know how to do very easily.
Yep. And then down the road, we could do things like we could go touch the door handle. And we could be like, go get it, toss treats away. Touch the door handle, go get it. Open the door, go get it. We are building up to the point to where it is something very normal for our dogs to move away from the door.
This is an interesting question. So any tips for when we're outside and we can't control the trigger and they lock or won't listen? I think you're going to say turn and get out.
Turn and get out.
Have let's go is a thing you can practice ahead of time. Do y'all want me to show you that really quickly?
Yeah, definitely.
You can make let's go a fun automatic pattern thing. Gwen, you'll have to tell me because I've not trained this for them. I've just seen you do it. Come here, Sully. So Sully, go over here.
You could go You could go up to the front door with Otis too and then do a runaway. So we're going to the front door and let's just pretend you start to open the door and oh my gosh, there's somebody out there that Otis has never seen and they're in a hazmat suit and that's super scary.
Yay, good job.
And treat. Yeah.
Good job.
And look at him going back to see how high his tail is? So Otis is arousal
doors are a threshold a problem for him.
Yeah.
Let's go. Good boy.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah,
we're going to start teaching him let's go means run away. Now listen, I'm going to tell you guys, if you have a problem or you've come head to head with a problem, I don't want this to happen, but sometimes you might unfortunately yank your dog and pull them away, and I don't want that. If you have a small dog, and you can run in there, jump in there and pick them up and run away, that's fine. Manage, keep your puppies safe. But every time that happens, every time you hit a test and you fail and your dog is not leaving, they won't eat and they won't listen to you, you have to be like, can I go back and start to make that picture at home and practice at home the things I would like my dog to do? Run away. I need them to run away first. So I love this idea of practicing the runaways.
Yes. Because then it's a thing, it's like a word that they happily know. Like, cool, let's do that.
Yep. You know what? We have two clients in class that have different runaway words, and this just made me so happy. One of my clients, because they wanted a word that emotionally meant something great was going to happen. So I have one client that says Dairy Queen and runs away to get treats. And I'm like, come on, how perfect is that? And the other one uses peanut butter. They're like, peanut butter, and they run away to go get it.
Well, now I'm really bummed that I'm using let's go.
I know, right? So if somebody says to me double stuffed Oreos, I'm in. Where do you want me to be?
Yes,